Welcome everybody to this edition of Attention Talk Video. I'm your host, ADHD and Attention Coach Jeff Copper, and today I'm here to talk about learning and the addiction to learning, and something I've learned a lot about those with ADHD. Many people with ADHD have an insatiable appetite for learning. Matter of fact, I would call them professional learners. Often they have multiple degrees. They take class after class after class after class. They love to learn. Once they learn it, they're really kind of done. They don't really do a lot with it. They get frustrated. Lots of people coming to me and say, I want a job that I'm passionate about. And I'm like, well, you're passionate about learning. We need to look for a job where you get paid to learn. The execution of things after you learn it is a little bit more difficult. To understand this, it's kind of fascinating because I was talking to somebody, texting them one point in time, just a casual friend of mine. I said, what are you doing? They said, I'm foraging for food. And all of a sudden, light bulbs went off in my mind. We know that dopamine plays a role in the reason that we seek out food. It's pleasurable. So 100,000 years ago, we were always out foraging for food because it gave us pleasure. It satisfied our appetite. To these days, food's everywhere, and it's not that difficult to kind of come by. But more and more, I find people with ADHD, they're foraging for information. Just for the sake of information, whether it's the New York Times or CNN or somewhere on the web, they go from click to click to click to click to click. And they're getting rewarded because of that. They're foraging for information like we used to forage for food. Back in the old days, we didn't have access to information and food was a bigger deal. But now that food's everywhere, we're foraging for information. So what good does that do, Jeff? Well, understand is that self-regulation issue is that often you get caught up in foraging for information just because you're addicted to it. It just feels good. The challenge of ADHD is override and say, I got to stop this. I got to get off the internet at 2 o'clock in the morning. I got to go to bed. Easy thing for me to say, difficult to do, but there are a lot of people with ADHD that they're always going to get the next learning. They'll justify, hey, I'm going to go get the next degree to get this job, and realizes that you're basically foraging for information. You might never actually do what you were trained to do or why you got that training. Again, I have had to talk a lot of people off the ledge when they are in their 50s and they need to get some work. Their solution is always to go back to school. And I'm like, listen, you're foraging for information. Let's get back on the task at hand. You're qualified to do a lot of different things. Let's go focus in on that. All right. So I hope this video gave you a pause and think. For those that are insatiable appetite for learning, maybe you're like, oh my God, that's me. Foraging for food, like I'm addicted to foraging for information. What do you do? It's a self-regulation issue. This is the epicenter of ADHD. How do you pause and override that urge to do it? Starts with self-awareness. Become aware of it. And the first thing you do is don't tempt yourself. Don't get it on the internet. Don't allow yourself access. Yes, you out there know, some of you know who I'm talking about, the ones who take the apps off their phone. It comes back on the phone. You can't help yourself. Sometimes you have to do some things like inhibit your ability to do it. I know Peter Sussman. Peter, I forget his name, in New York, he actually has an app on his computer that inhibits his ability to get to certain websites, so he can't forage for that information. So those that identify, I'm talking to you. It's easy for me to say, not easy for you to do, but you got to be aware of this. And you need to set things up so you don't tempt yourself, because it's a lot harder to stop yourself in the middle of it. So anyway, this is the epicenter of ADD. I hope that this is giving you pause to think about it. If you're really going to manage this stuff, you can put tricks and strategies, but you're going to ignore it until you own it yourself and say, listen, this is an issue. I've got a problem. I've got to do something about it. And you realize how difficult it is to stop that. So subscribe to our YouTube channel, leave a message. I hope you'll think as a result of this. And I hope you enjoy this edition of Attention Talk Video. Take care.